Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're heading to the heart of Europe. We're going to try to figure out what's going on in Germany.
Germany, huh?
Yeah, Germany. It's really fascinating, honestly. We've got all sorts of stuff to dig into. Reports, analyses.
Wow.
Even some firsthand accounts. We're going to piece it all together, just like, I don't know, a big puzzle.
Sounds complicated.
It is, but it's also important. Like, what happens in Germany doesn't stay in Germany. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What happens there, it affects everyone, really. All of Europe, even the whole world.
Exactly. Okay, so to get started, let's go back a little bit. Before the whole Ukraine war thing, Germany was seriously hooked on Russian gas.
Like here.
Yeah, they got like 55% of their natural gas from Russia. It all came through these underwater pipelines.
Nord Stream.
Yeah, Nord Stream. They ran right under the Baltic Sea. And those pipelines, they weren't just about energy, right?
No, not just energy. They were a symbol of how close or how messy Germany's relationship with Russia had become over, like, decades, economically, politically.
Totally. And then, bam, September 2022. Those pipelines became like the center of this huge international incident.
Like explosions.
Explosions. Ripped right through them. Damaged 3 out of 4 lines.
Wow.
And this wasn't just like a symbolic attack or something. The fallout was real.
Oh, yeah. Instant economic chaos.
Exactly. Suddenly it was like, we're not just talking energy anymore. This was like a geopolitical thriller or something.
Real cloak and dagger stuff.
And then there's the environmental impact. It was massive.
You're not kidding.
Yeah.
Biggest human-caused methane release, like, ever.
Really?
Ever. Imagine 8 million cars just driving around, for a year. All that pollution. That's the scale we're talking about.
Crazy. And on top of all that, there's the mystery of who actually did it.
Oh, yeah, that. It's a real head-scratcher. Every time you think you've got a piece of the puzzle, it just gets more confusing.
Right. Germany, Sweden, Denmark, they all started their own investigations, and it just led to, like, finger-pointing and a bunch of different theories.
It's a mess. And then you have, like, German authorities. They actually issued an arrest warrant for a Ukrainian national. They think he planted the explosives.
Whoa.
Yeah, which made everyone wonder if maybe the Ukrainian government was, involved somehow.
That's a whole other can of worms. And get this suspect, his name is Vadir Z, and he actually traveled to Germany multiple times, like after the explosions. Yeah, apparently right under the noses of like all the intelligence agencies. Then he like disappeared. Went back to Ukraine.
Like a ghost.
Totally. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh pops up, drops this bombshell report, says the U.S. was behind the whole thing.
The U.S.
The U.S. orchestrated the whole Nord Stream sabotage, according to him. Of course, the U.S. completely denies it. Calls Hersh's report utterly false, complete fiction.
Yeah, gotta love a good conspiracy theory.
Right. But it's important to hear all sides of the story, see the different narratives that are out there.
Definitely.
Okay, but let's get back to the fallout from all of this. Remember when gas prices in Europe went through the roof? That was all connected to the Nord Stream thing.
Oh, yeah. Things got expensive. Real quick.
They did. Like that Dutch gas index, the TTF one, it's like the benchmark for European natural gas prices, right? It hit a record high.
Something like 200% higher than before the explosions.
Exactly. And that wasn't just some abstract number, people felt it in their wallets. The average German household, their energy bills went from like 1,800 euros a year to 5,000 euro.
Ouch.
That's a huge jump. Like people on fixed incomes, low-income families, they got hit hard.
Absolutely. And that was just the start of it. It's like that energy crisis set off this chain reaction. Prices started going up everywhere.
Inflation rate.
Inflation. Big time.
Yeah.
All across Europe, but Germany got it the worst.
Yeah.
You could practically see the prices changing on the grocery store shelves. It peaked at like 11.6% in October 2022. Highest it's been since like 1951.
Wow.
And it wasn't just groceries. Everything got more expensive. Transportation, housing. People were struggling to make ends meet.
No wonder there were protests and unrest all over Europe.
Totally. And it wasn't just people feeling the pinch. German industry, the heart of their economy, it started taking a hit too.
Right, because energy is a big part of manufacturing.
Huge part. Like, take BASF, for example. They're a major chemical company, one of the biggest in the world. They had to cut back production at their main plant.
Really?
Yeah, energy costs just got too high. It wasn't sustainable anymore.
That's a big deal.
It is. And they weren't alone. The automotive industry, which is like a cornerstone of the German economy, they started feeling the squeeze too.
I guess cars take a lot of energy to build.
They do. And then you've got the rising cost of like materials for electric vehicle batteries, things like lithium. It was hitting their profits hard.
So it was like a double whammy for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about the small businesses. They often operate on like really tight margins.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of wiggle room when things get tough.
Yeah, they're vulnerable.
They are. And a lot of them ended up shutting down, couldn't keep up with those sky-high energy bills.
It's like this perfect storm, right? Energy costs are up, inflation's out of control, industries are struggling, and all of this, it happens right as Germany is sending a ton of aid to Ukraine.
Yeah, billions of euros in financial and military aid.
But with things getting so bad at home, you have to wonder, how long can they keep that up?
Exactly. And that's when the political landscape started to, like, crumble under the pressure.
Oh, yeah. Things were about to get interesting.
They were.
It's crazy how all of this stuff in Germany, it kind of makes you look back at history, you know, to figure out what's happening now.
Yeah, like we're peeling back the layers of, I don't know, an onion or something, trying to understand all the connections between Germany and Russia. It goes way back.
Centuries.
Centuries. And it's not always pretty.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, think about the world wars. Germany and Russia, they were on opposite sides. Huge conflicts that changed, like, the whole world.
Yeah, left some serious scars
Yeah,
on both sides.
for sure. But, like, even with all that conflict, there were times when they actually cooperated.
Right. Out of necessity sometimes. Like after World War I, Germany and the Soviet Union, they were both kind of ostracized, right? No one wanted to play with them.
The outcasts.
Exactly. So they made this deal, the Treaty of Rapallo, in 1922. They reestablished diplomatic ties, started trading again, even did some military stuff together.
It's like enemies becoming friends. Well, maybe not friends, but at least partners.
Partners in crime, maybe. But then, of course, you have the Cold War. That was a whole different level of tension. Europe was divided. The world was divided.
And Germany literally divided in half. A wall right through the middle of Berlin.
Yeah, imagine that. Families separated, friends cut off from each other.
It's hard to even grasp. But even during the Cold War, there were these attempts to, like, bridge the gap, right?
Right, like West Germany's Ostpolitik. That was Chancellor Willy Brandt's idea. He wanted to normalize relations with the Eastern Bloc, including the Soviet Union.
It was a big risk going against, like, the whole Cold War mentality.
It was. But it actually worked. They signed a bunch of treaties, eased tensions, opened up more trade and communication.
So diplomacy can work, even when things seem really bleak.
Exactly. And then, boom, 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. End of the Cold War. A whole new world order.
And Germany, they played a big role in helping Russia transition, you know, to a market economy, integrating them into Europe.
Yeah. Economic ties deepened, especially in the energy sector. Those Nord Stream pipelines, they were a symbol of that growing interdependence. It felt like a fresh start. You know, a chance to leave the past behind.
Hopeful times. But then 2014 happened. Russia annexes Crimea.
Yeah, that was a big shock. Europe, the U.S., everyone condemned it. Germany imposed sanctions on Russia.
Their relationship, which is already kind of shaky, it went downhill fast.
It did. And then, of course, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. That was the real game changer.
It was. Suddenly, Germany's reliance on Russian gas, it wasn't just an economic issue anymore. It was a security risk.
A big one. They realized they were vulnerable, that their energy policy had made them dependent on a country that was now basically an adversary.
Wake-up call.
A big one. And that brings us to where we are now. Germany is scrambling, trying to figure out its energy future. It's not easy.
They're trying to change, though. Like, in 2023, their total energy consumption actually went down by 8.1%. It's been trending downward since 1990.
Yeah, they're getting more efficient. But what's even more interesting is how their energy mix is changing.
What do you mean?
Like the sources of their energy. Mineral oil, it's still the biggest chunk, over 35%. But natural gas, it's down to just under 25%. Yeah. And renewables, they're almost at 20%.
Wow, renewables are catching up.
They are. And get this, in 2023, renewables actually provided most of Germany's electricity for the first time ever. Wind power was the biggest contributor, at 31%.
That's impressive, especially considering they're trying to ditch Russian gas at the same time.
It shows they're serious about this transition.
Yeah.
But it's not cheap, and it's not easy. They're having to scramble to find other sources of energy, especially LNG.
LNG.
Liquefied natural gas. It's natural gas that's been cooled down so it can be shipped around the world.
Oh, right. I've heard about that. So they're building new terminals, making deals with suppliers all over the place.
They are. It's a huge undertaking. And a risky one, too. The global energy market is super volatile right now.
And expensive, I bet.
You bet. LNG is generally more expensive than pipeline gas. So German consumers and businesses, they're likely to see their energy bills go up even more.
It's a tough spot to be in. They want to support Ukraine and get off Russian gas, but it's costing them.
It is. And it's not just Germany that's feeling the effects of all this. Think about Slovakia, for example.
Slovakia, what about them?
They were really dependent on those Russian pipelines that ran through Ukraine. Yeah. Their prime minister, Robert Fico, he was pretty vocal about it, said cutting off those pipelines could wreck their economy.
So it's not just a German problem, it's a European problem.
It is. One country's energy decisions can have a domino effect.
It makes you realize how interconnected everything is.
Totally. And it highlights how tricky this whole energy transition is, especially when you throw in a major geopolitical crisis like the war in Ukraine.
So what now? What's the plan for Germany? How do they deal with this energy mess, the economic fallout, and still help Ukraine?
The next government, whoever wins the election, they've got some really hard decisions to make. They need to speed up the shift to renewables, but that takes time.
It does.
And in the meantime, they've got this immediate energy shortage to deal with.
It's like they're juggling, like, 5 things at once. Keeping the lights on, supporting their industries, helping Ukraine, staying united with the EU.
Exactly. And they've got to find a balance somehow. There's no easy answers. Maybe they go all in on LNG. Maybe they look at other options like nuclear power. It's on the table. Or maybe they focus on reducing energy consumption overall.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And they can't forget about the economy either. They need to help industries and households that are struggling with these high energy costs. Maybe some subsidies, tax breaks, or investments in energy efficiency programs.
Okay, yeah.
It's a complicated situation, that's for sure. And it's made even more complicated by the political climate.
Yeah.
Those far-right parties, they're taking advantage of the situation,
Yeah.
playing on people's fears, pushing their own agenda.
It's a lot to handle.
It is. But Germany's been through tough times before. They're resilient, they adapt.
Hopefully they can figure this out.
I think they will.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even when things look really bad, there's always hope.
There is.
And that by understanding this whole tangled web of energy, economics, and geopolitics, we can make better decisions for the future.
Absolutely.
Decisions that lead to a more secure and sustainable world. That's what we're all aiming for, right?
That's the goal. Okay, so to get a better handle on what the future might hold for Germany, let's look at something specific that happened at the beginning of 2025.
You mean when Ukraine decided to shut off those Russian gas pipelines running through their territory?
Exactly. For 40 years, those pipelines were a major route for Russian gas to reach Europe. And then, just like that, they were shut down.
January 2025. It was a bold move by Ukraine. They were basically saying, we're done with Russian gas, even if it hurts. Even if it hurts Europe, too.
Wow. And that created a whole new set of problems for Germany, right? They were already trying to replace the gas they lost from Nord Stream.
Right. This just added fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big challenge. Germany was already in a rush to ramp up their LNG imports. They want to hit 37 billion cubic meters per year by 2024.
And then
double that again by 2028.
Whoa. That's a lot of LNG. It's not just about, like, building the terminals and stuff.
No, it's about making deals, too.
Yeah.
Long-term contracts with suppliers all over the world.
So they're not just relying on one country.
Exactly. Got to diversify.
Smart. But I bet that's expensive.
Oh, yeah. LNG's pricier than pipeline gas, usually. So German consumers, businesses, everyone's probably going to see their energy bills go up even more.
It's a tough situation, huh? Germany wants to do the right thing, support Ukraine, get off Russian gas, but it's not without consequences.
A trade-off. And, Germany's not alone in this. Look at Slovakia.
Slovakia.
Yeah, they were super reliant on those Russian pipelines that went through Ukraine.
Oh, right. I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah. Their prime minister, Robert Fico, he was, freaking out about it.
Yeah.
Said shutting down those pipelines could be devastating for their economy.
Makes sense.
Right. So it's not just Germany's problem. It's a whole European energy security issue.
One big puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it shows how tough this energy transition really is, especially with a war going on.
Okay, so back to Germany. What's the plan? How do they fix this energy crisis, deal with the economic fallout, and still, be there for Ukraine? It's a lot to ask.
It is. Whoever's in charge next, they've got some tough choices to make. Speeding up the shift to renewables, that's got to be a priority, but it's a long game, right?
Yeah, it takes time.
And they need solutions now. They need to secure those LNG contracts, yeah, but maybe they also look at other options.
Like what?
like nuclear power.
Nuclear.
Seriously.
It's on the table. Some people think it could be part of the solution. Or maybe they focus on reducing energy consumption, across the board.
Be more efficient.
Exactly. Use less energy overall. And they can't forget about the economic side of things either. People are struggling. Businesses are struggling.
Yeah, they need help.
Right. Maybe some targeted subsidies, tax breaks, or investments in energy efficiency programs.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
It's a multi-pronged approach. A lot of moving pieces.
And don't forget the political situation. It's a mess.
Oh, yeah. The far right, they're just adding fuel to the fire,
Yeah.
exploiting people's fears, pushing their own agenda. It makes everything harder. It does. So what do you think? Is there hope for Germany?
I think so. Germany's been through a lot. Wars, division, economic crises. They always seem to come out on top, rebuilt, stronger.
They're resilient.
They are. It's a reminder that even when things look really bleak, there's always hope. And that by really understanding these issues, energy, economics, geopolitics, we can make better decisions.
We can change things.
We can. Decisions that create a more secure, sustainable world. That's what we're all working towards.
That's the goal. Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's deep dive. Germany's in a tough spot, that's for sure. But they're also showing the world what it means to adapt, to change, to face those big global challenges head on.
They are. It's a reminder that we're all in this together.
We are. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the forces that are shaping our world.